All right, good evening everybody. Bonsoir tout le monde. Bienvenue à notre séance régulière du 27 janvier. Alors, si je peux avoir quelqu'un pour faire l'ouverture de la séance, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'ouvrir la séance.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Fini. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. Councillor Lawrence Small-Pennefather, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to recognize that today is the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, marking 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau death camp. For those that survived the terror of the camps and for those who perished, remember their bravery and innocence. As survivors grow fewer and anti-Semitism rises, today is more vital than ever. It is incumbent upon us to remember the victims of the atrocities of the Holocaust and reflect on the dangers of anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. I'd like to make notice tonight, we usually have our communications officer, Sandra Shangula, with us tonight, but tonight we also have our regular communications officer, Elizabeth Roy, who's coming back to us after maternity leave. So welcome back, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. Alors, si je peux avoir quelqu'un pour proposer l'adoption de l'ordre du jour, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du lundi 27 janvier 2025, tel que présenté.
Merci, la conseillère Fini. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. L'approbation des procès-verbaux.
Je propose d'approuver les procès-verbaux des séances du conseil tenues aux dates suivantes. Séance spéciale du 16 décembre 2024, séance ordinaire du 16 décembre 2024, séance spéciale du 16 janvier 2025.
Parfait, merci, la conseillère Yulin. Je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. We're going to go right to report of the mayor. Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's 2025 has begun well. In recent council meetings, we've discussed the sale of a property the town owned on Boulevard Montreal-Toronto. The adjacent land currently houses a U-Haul center, not to be confused with the one that's on Boulevard Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue near the Canadian Tire. The land being sold was already used by U-Haul and was under a lease agreement with them. We've now finalized a sale agreement with U-Haul, transferring the land for $1.4 million. U-Haul plans to develop the land to increase their self-storage capacity. The nearest residents are on the other side of the CP tracks on Ronald Drive. Those homes are situated at a higher elevation and will not be affected by the project changes. Besides the sale price, the town will benefit from permit fees and an increased tax base. It could also encourage other redevelopment on the nearby lots. Council and our administration are continuing to explore ways to increase and diversify our tax base. Wishing you good health in the new year. J'espère que l'année 2025 a bien commencé pour vous. Lors des dernières réunions de conseil, nous avons discuté de la vente d'une propriété que la ville possédait sur le boulevard Montréal-Toronto. Le terrain adjacent abrite actuellement un centre U-Haul, à ne pas confondre avec celui sur le boulevard Saint-Anne-de-Bellevue près du Canadian Tire. Le terrain était déjà utilisé par U-Haul et faisait l'objet d'un bail avec la ville. Nous avons maintenant conclu un accord de vente avec U-Haul, transférant le terrain pour 1,4 million. U-Haul prévoit de réaménager le terrain pour augmenter sa capacité de libre entreposage. Les résidents les plus proches se trouvent à l'autre côté du voie ferrée CP sur Ronald Drive. Ces logements sont situés à une altitude plus élevée et ne seront pas affectés par les changements apportés au projet. Outre la vente le prix de vente, la Ville bénéficiera des droits de permis et de l'augmentation d'assiette fiscale. Le projet pourrait également encourager le réaménagement des terrains avoisinants. Le conseil municipal et l'administration continuent d'étudier les moyens d'accroître et diversifier notre assiette fiscale. Nous vous souhaitons une bonne santé pour la nouvelle année. Please continue to look after each other. Thank you. On va procéder maintenant avec les rapports des conseillères. We're starting with seat number 3 for Councillor's Report, Councillor Colleen Feeney, on matters pertaining to finance, recreation, and topics of the status of an age-friendly municipality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everybody. Bonsoir. Start off with the finance. The 2025 tax bills were mailed out on January 21st, and the due dates are February the 20th and May the 21st, 2025. Les factures d'impôt ont été envoyées par le poste le 21 janvier. Les dates d'échéance sont le 20 février et le 21 mai. Finance department is very busy with a whole lot of other year-end things, as you would imagine, preparing for the audit for the pension fund, and doing all the tax documents for payroll year-end. I have one more reminder for residents. If you need to and have not yet renewed your parking and your dog licenses, please complete the online form and follow the procedures described on the website to avoid any fines. Also in finance, disbursements. You'll see later this meeting, we will be passing $7,580,737 worth of disbursements. I'd like to tell you where your money is going. In fact, this month, that's a very large amount. 90% of that, or $6.9 million, is in infrastructure. And that includes the recreation center for $6.8 million, water regulators, sidewalks, and town hall for the remainder. The next largest expenditure was $280,000 for deductions at source, benefits, and utilities. And other larger expenditures were salt, asphalt, and aquafalt for $52,000, and various pieces of equipment for public works, recreation, and administration, totaling $51,000, and then the usual garbage contract and recycling for about $39,000. That's the majority of the bills. I'll move on now to recreation. In the community center, the winter programs have begun, and there's lots of new courses. If you want to try some of them out, there is still room in some of them. The cours de français, the creative writing and Spanish conversation, for example. Also, we'll be taking registration for the March Break Camp. That runs from the 3rd to the 7th at the Montréal-Ouest Community Center. Registration is open to residents and non-residents. Please sign up on Amelia. Another thing coming up in the month of February will be the Valentine's Parents' Night Out for the 4 to 10-year-olds, babysitting at the Community Center, Friday, February the 14th from 5 to 9. And we have workshops for teens and families. The one in January was on Lego, and the one February 21st is the game of Catan. As well in February, there's the babysitting course for 11 years old and plus, cours de gardien averti. And on February the 24th, Stay Safe, Restez Seul à la Maison. That one's for 9 to 13-year-olds. Des événements, sur tous les événements et mises à jour ont ajouté au site web publié sur Facebook dans l'informeur, et les résidents peuvent acheter des billets pour les événements sur Amelia. Artist Showcase. La vitrine artistique de Montréal-Ouest offre aux résidents l'occasion d'exposer leurs œuvres au cours de l'année à l'Hôtel de Ville et en ligne, le site web et parfois par des réseaux sociaux. The topic for this month is Hiver, Winter 2025, les animaux de compagnie et les visiteurs de jardin. And as I say, the limit date to the due date for that is February the 7th, if you're interested in participating. It doesn't seem like it's summer these days, but the pool, we are taking applications for the pool and for day camp. If you have anybody you know that wants to apply. And the registration for day camp will be opening very shortly from February the 3rd to February the 9th, and we are offering deep discounts for Montreal-West residents only. You get a $40 rebate if you register for 4 weeks, or a $75 rebate if you register for 8 weeks. And the half-day program will also have a rebate of $40 if you register for 8 weeks. The registration for individual weeks only starts on May 28th, depending on availability. Tennis camp, also, if you sign up before March 7th, there will be a $20 rebate. Back to winter, we're talking about the outdoor rinks. They're all open, and thanks to the cooler weather, they're all doing very well. We have rinks at George Booth, Strathern Rugby, and Davies. There's only 2 hockey rinks, and they are at George Booth over the hump, and also at George Booth on the Bedbrook, and Rugby over the hump. We ask residents, please, if it's not a hockey rink, do not play hockey there. Somebody can get hurt if there's a flying puck. There's no boards then to keep the puck in, and so these are for skating only, the other ones. On to seniors. We had a wonderful lecture on memory loss by Karen Deroux from AGI last month, and we have an upcoming talk on February the 12th at the Community Center. It's called Making Space for Joy, Choosing What Stuff to Let Go. Definitely something I need to go to. As well, we have an active walking group. We had a very successful trip to the Museum of Fine Arts, which is free for seniors on Tuesday mornings, and it was led by Montreal-West resident Barbara Tecker-Brzezinski. And February 4th, we're doing the Underground City, the Réseau. So if you're interested in any of these things, just call up the community center and sign up. And finally, there's a Valentine's brunch on Friday, February the 14th. And once again, call the community center to register. Et si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à m'envoyer un courriel ou me poser plus tard au cours de la réunion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Reporting from seat number 4 on matters pertaining to urban planning, Councillor Maria Torres.
Thank you. Good evening. Bonsoir à tous. During the last month, the Urban Planning Department issued 15 permits. Only 4 permits were for renovations. All the other were for public domain intervention. 3 notices were sent to residents, all for work without a permit. During the above-mentioned period, the Planning Advisory Committee met once and reviewed a total of 2 files. The next PAC meeting will be held on February 19th, and the deadline to submit complete files is February 5th. La prochaine réunion du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme aura lieu le 20 mars et la date limite pour soumettre les dossiers complets sera le 6 mars. Moving to another topic, recently the committee responsible for selecting the artwork to be created and installed at the new recreation center held its final meeting. I am glad to announce that the artwork has been selected. We cannot announce the name of the artist yet, so we'll have to wait until it's installed for everybody to know. I am sure that it will be a wonderful asset to the center as well as to the town. This selection is a requirement under the Art and Architecture Integration Policy of the Quebec Ministry of Culture and Communication. And it is the Ministry of Culture and Communication that implements and coordinates the policy. Récemment, le comité chargé de sélectionner l'œuvre d'art qui sera créée et installée au nouveau centre de récréation a tenu sa dernière réunion. Je suis heureux d'annoncer que l'œuvre a été sélectionnée. Nous ne pouvons pas encore annoncer le nom de l'artiste, nous devons donc tout attendre qu'elle soit installée. Je suis sûre qu'elle sera au tout formidable pour le centre et pour la ville. Cette sélection est une exigence de la politique d'intégration des arts à l'architecture du ministère de la Culture et des Communications du Québec. Et c'est le ministère de la Culture et des Communications qui met en œuvre et coordonne cette politique. Finally, do not forget to apply for your permits. The procedure is explained on the town's website in the urban planning section. Finalement, n'oubliez pas de demander vos permis. Toutes les demandes de permis et autres autorisations doivent se faire via le site web de la ville. Les procédures sont expliquées sur le site web de la ville sous les services d'urbanisme. C'est tout pour moi ce soir. Si vous avez des questions ou des commentaires, n'hésitez pas à me contacter ou le département d'urbanisme. Merci à tous et bonne soirée.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. Reporting from seat number 1 on matters pertaining to public security, Councillor Lauren Small-Pennefather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. J'aimerais souhaiter la bienvenue à tout le monde ce soir. Welcome everybody this evening. Our department, I'm pleased to report that our department has been fully staffed since the beginning of December. Notre service est complet depuis le début du mois de décembre. We have received also a number of vacant home requests over the holidays, and PSOs were out there keeping an eye out on properties. As always, we continually verify and working with the urban planning department for building and construction permits. Whenever we see a contractor occupying a public domain, we found no instances of work being done without permits this month. That's great news. Schools have resumed, of course, after the holiday break, and the PSOs continue to monitor our schools and daycares for any illegal parking or unsafe behavior. Les écoles ont repris après les vacances et des OSP continuent de surveiller les écoles et garderies pour détecter tout stationnement illégal ou comportement dangereux. The PSOs have also been going around with flyers to inform residents that may not be aware of garbage collection date that have changed now from Thursdays to Wednesdays. Les agents ont également distribué l'information pour informer les résidents qui ne savent peut-être pas que le ramassage des ordures est désormais effectué les mardis et non plus les jeudis. For unknown reasons, we had quite a few of unusual calls for vehicles blocking private driveways. We had to tow away a few for completely blocking driveways and others that were just simply ticketed for overhanging as so to impede the access. We know sometimes in the area when there are events, sometimes when they're close to churches, because of snow, people tend to block other people's driveways. So just to pay particular attention that when people are parking, to make sure you're not blocking someone's driveway. Pour une raison inexplicable, nous avons reçu un nombre inhabituel d'appels pour les véhicules bloquent des allées privées. Nous avons dû remorquer quelques-uns qui bloquaient complètement les entrées, tandis que des autres qui semblaient ont reçu une contravention pour avoir débordé au point d'entraver l'accès. We had a couple of interesting calls over the last month. One was of an intoxication of an incident of a pedestrian on Westminster, where PSOs were keeping the peace until the SPVM were able to address the issue. We also had an inebriated driver who was arrested by the SPVM. Again, PSOs intervened while SPVM was called to assist with the situation. And there was another incident at the beginning of the month where there was a black BMW SUV that was flipped upside down on Brock South. The police were called, nobody was injured. The vehicle had been abandoned. It was not supposed to be on the road because of a suspended license, and the vehicle was not allowed to circulate. The vehicle was towed away and impounded, and most likely police officers showed up at that person's door to make sure that they're going to be compliant. And that's just an example, a few examples of how our PSOs work with our SPVM. We, of course, want to strongly emphasize for residents that park on the street to regularly be on the lookout for the fluorescent orange temporary no parking signs for snow removal. Please check after any significant snowfalls. Vehicles hindering snow removal operations can be ticketed and towed at the owner's expense for a total fine of $196. Illegally parked vehicles slow down our operations significantly. Nous aimerions insister auprès des résidents qui se garent dans les rues pour qu'ils surveillent régulièrement des panneaux orange d'interdiction temporaire de stationner pour le déneigement. Vérifier après tout le chute de neige important. Les véhicules gênent les opérations de déneigement peuvent être verbalisés et remorqués aux frais de propriétaire pour une amende totale de $196. Les véhicules stationnés illégalement ralentissent considérablement nos opérations. Also want to remind residents, of course, if you have a contractor, to make sure that they do have a permit with the town. And these are a couple of things that the contractors must follow with regards to snow removal. Snow from private driveways and walkways must not be placed on public sidewalks, lanes, or streets. The only exception is when the town is removing snow in your vicinity, at which time it may be added to the banks to be removed. It must be spread out along the snowbank, not piled in a single large mass. Under no circumstances may snow removed from one driveway be placed on the street in front of any neighboring driveway or around fire hydrants. En aucun cas, la neige enlevée d'être une allée doit être placée dans les rues devant une allée voisine ou autour des bouches d'incendie. The blockage of any street, sidewalk, or lane by snow removed by private property will not be tolerated. Le blocage d'une rue, d'un trottoir ou d'une voie par la neige enlevée d'une propriété privée ne sera pas toléré. I also just wanted to cover a few key points of some of the actions the town has taken with regards to Westminster. In November 2023, the town undertook a traffic study. Implementing measures were taken during October 2024, which was a first reading to prohibit a southbound turn from Sherbrooke to Westminster. Other recommendations to be implemented from the study on a pilot project basis to see how other parts of the town may be affected. We will prioritize safety over convenience. Organized a meeting with the key stakeholders in November of 2024, including Royal West, the SPDM, our M&A, and EMSB, had discussions with CPKC and EXO, installed flashing stop signs at Westminster and Ainsley in December 2024. The town also organized a meeting with the new commandant in January 2025 with Royal West. And the town is also applying for the Programme d'aide financière des Fonds de la Sécurité routière, Transport et Mobilité durable Québec, which is a grant for up to $350,000, which the town could get 80% of the $350,000. And I just wanted to also give a shout out to the mayor on the birth of his second grandchild, Callum. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. And reporting from seat number 2, Councillor Elizabeth Yulin, on matters pertaining to public works, communications, and the environment.
Thank you very much. Bonsoir à tous. So our public works team has been very busy this month, primarily dealing with snow clearing and salting. The extreme weather fluctuations, though, have caused sharp increases in water breaks. We've already had 4 this month. Tree trimming and winter road repairs have been ongoing as well, and crews have been removing the Christmas lights and decorations all around town. I'd like to remind residents to avoid parking too close to the sidewalks. This hampers our sidewalk snow equipment's ability to pass safely and can cause damage to your car and our machinery. As you may know, we've been having some difficulty with a couple of our new waste management contractors. Occasionally, some areas of town have had their pickups skipped, and we're told that some residents' bins have been broken. I just want to reassure you that we've been made aware of these problems and are dealing with the new contractors to solve them. So if you experience any issues with your waste collection, please fill out an online form for Public Works and let us know, because the better record we have of these problems, the better position we'll be in to address them. Switching to the environment portfolio now, the Environment Department has been quite busy dealing with this new waste management contractor issue for reasons described above, and the lines of communication are definitely improving. The department also spent time reviewing tree maintenance work needed and reassessing our spring priority list. An evaluation has been done of our internal green municipal practices with a goal of integrating more eco-friendly solutions into the town's daily operations. Le service de communication a travaillé sur une variété de projets, notamment avec le département de loisirs et de la culture, pour promouvoir les programmes d'hiver, la semaine de relâche et le camp de jour, en collaboration avec les finances pour communiquer les taxes foncières annuelles, ainsi qu'avec les travaux publics pour informer sur la fermeture d'eau urgente et les bris d'aqueduc. Le département travaillait également sur un projet lié au nouveau centre sportif et récréatif. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be very pleased to answer them during question period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. We're going to move to question period right away. So question period, we'll take questions from the floor for a maximum of 25 minutes. Limited 2 questions per person. Short preamble, your first question, a follow-up question if you want. It's a question period, it's not a debate period. I will stop you. After questions from the floor, we will answer questions from residents that have been submitted online until 2 p.m. today on any topic. Same rule applies, 25 minutes total, 2 questions per person maximum. In the second question period, towards the end of the meeting, we take questions pertaining to the agenda submitted via our website during this meeting. We limit it to 10 minutes from the floor and 10 minutes online. And I see there's some people in the room that had submitted questions online. So if it's the same question, one or the other, if you ask your question in person, I won't read it online. So please step up to the microphone, whoever wants to ask a question, state your name and your address, and we'll go from there.
Good evening, Council, and congratulations on the sale of the land.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Feeney mentioned in September about the pension report being issued, so I requested from Mr. Gilbert a copy of the report, which I have here. I was wondering, Councillor Feeney, if I could ask you a few questions on that report.
I don't have it with me, but you can ask, and if I don't have the answers right now, I'll
Sure.
get them for you.
Yeah, no problem. My interest is because that is part of my business, and as a taxpayer, we do contribute into the plan. So that's my interest in the plan, just to clarify.
I'm sorry, you didn't say, you contribute into the plan, that the town does contribute and the employees contribute as well.
Right.
Yes.
And as a taxpayer, I contribute, and so does everybody else, into the pension plan.
That's right.
Right, we
That's
agree on that, right?
Yes, regardless of the returns.
Regardless of returns. We'll come into that question. It states here on the report by Raymond Chabot, according to the most recent valuation, the previous and current pension components are in a deficit position. And I'm curious about that. Do you have any possible explanation why the plan's in a deficit?
Nope, not offhand here. I know that certainly some of the investments went down this past year, and I don't know if we're talking about an ongoing deficit, et cetera. I mean, pension plans, when they, as you know, if it's your business.
It is my business.
They have to be able to promise that the employees are going to get, that the retirees are going to be able to get their pension for a certain amount of time. In Quebec, I think they have to be at a certain percentage, or is it 90% or something of sustainability? So I don't know what percent you're talking about there, but yeah.
No, I'm just talking about the report,
Okay.
where it states the pension plan's in a deficit. Now, I'm curious about that. Mr. Mayor, may I ask a few more questions?
One more question. Yeah, one more, Mr. Robinson.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Then you're going to shut me down.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Two questions. And
This is extremely important,
I
Mr.
agree
Mayor.
with you 100%.
And I've got about 10 questions on it. So you're going to shut me down after two?
Two questions, absolutely. But because Councillor Feeney's already said that she doesn't have a lot of the answers, if I can suggest that you email the questions in, and we'll get them answered for you. And in fact, we'll go a step further. We'll have Councillor Feeney read the answers at the next council meeting. Okay?
Thank
I
you.
mean, I
Thanks
don't
for
have the
your- thank you,
report with
thank
me,
you for your
Mr.
understanding, Mr.
Robinson,
Mayor.
and it
I
was last,
appreciate it.
and it was last
so do I.
September.
As a
Yeah.
taxpayer, I really appreciate it.
Go ahead, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah.
Ask your second question.
I have a second question. Mr. Councillor Feeney, you mentioned about an actuarial evaluation in your report. Could you tell us the cost of that evaluation?
I think that sounded about 13,000.
Ouais. Oui. Oui, je suis très au courant avec ça, madame. Oui. Oui. Non, c'est juste une question, madame. OK, c'est cool. So, j'ai pas le droit de poser d'autres questions?
That's two right now.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Robinson.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tanya Radhakrishnan. I live at 127 Percival. And I came as kind of a delegate, I guess, from the Environment Committee and as a avid cyclist. Not so much lately. I'm a bit wimpy when it comes to snow on the ground, but I do ride my bike to work 5 days a week for about 6 or 7 months of the year, as do my husband and my 2 children that go to McGill and Marianopolis also ride their bikes most of the time. And so we're really concerned about cycling infrastructure here in Montreal-West as well as in the surrounding city. And so I was pleased to learn that there had been some discussion about doing a study at some point during 2025, and that in fact some funds had been put into the budget, if I understood correctly, for that study. And so my first question really is just what's the status on that, and do you know when it'll start?
Councillor Yulin, please, maybe you can take those two questions.
So yes, we definitely have money in the budget for a bike study, a bike path study. This is something we've talked about for a long time. I don't know when it will start. It's quite a process to get an evaluator in to do the study, but it's certainly our hope that it will be in 2025.
Okay, and do you have a process to choose an evaluator, or like how do you go about finding that person and hiring them, I guess?
Well, generally for large contracts we go to tender, but in this case I'm not sure whether we would go to tender or have invitations made, depending on the size of the contract.
Okay, so but you don't even know when you'll start that? like finding which way to go?
If it's up to me, it would start tomorrow.
Okay.
But I can't tell you exactly when. I think I'm certainly going to try to make sure that it's in the first part of the year. Let's
Okay.
say that.
Yeah.
Because
Thank
I
you.
also agree that it's an extremely important issue, so I thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Hello, Joanna Dewey, 232 Percival. Just really happy that the town is applying for the provincial grant to make safety improvements along Westminster. I just wondered whether you could talk a little bit about the phased approach beyond banning the left turn south on Westminster. What else was in the traffic study report that might be brought in? That would be great.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor
Sure.
Small-Pen.
Thanks for your question, Joanna. Yeah, we do have a number of phases, and I'll even say even the first southbound turn that's going to be prohibited from Sherbrooke to Westminster, they're all going to be under like a pilot project because we have to see before we do anything permanent, because we're such a small town. If we make a change in one part of the town, it can affect another part of the town. So we want to see how that influences other driving habits in the town. So that's the first one. Another one is possibly, again, prohibiting a southbound turn onto Broughton.
From Broughton onto...
From Broughton
onto
onto Westminster. And then we're looking at, if you remember the little îlot that was removed on the corner, here are all my directions, on the southeast corner of Sherbrooke, which you know was removed by EXO because it was very dangerous for pedestrians to cross there. If you go to the west side, the southwest side now, we're going to have little îlots that could be possibly for pedestrians so that when they're crossing, they're little kind of safety islands that pedestrians will be allowed to kind of have a safety zone. And then some other things are looking at maybe reducing some lanes as well on Westminster, traveling southbound. So those would be some of the recommendations that came out of the report. And of course, because they just came out of the report, they haven't been fully costed out yet. So that's why when we're applying for the grant, for instance, we're doing it based on what we know to our best knowledge today. And hopefully some other, costing around that will come through. But those would be some of the measures that we're able to take as the town in terms of our jurisdiction and being able to put some of those forward in terms of mitigation measures for safety.
That's great, thank you. And I was really glad to hear that you're going to prioritize safety over convenience. That's really good to hear with the school being so close by. I did also wonder whether the town might ever consider presenting the results of the 2023 traffic study for those of us who are interested, just to see what the recommendations of the professionals are.
Now, Joanna, we're currently looking at seeing how we can do a summary of, because it's a very heavy report that what happens is sometimes when you put out the information, like I was saying previously, municipalities, provincial governments, federal governments all have an access to information and privacy. The reason being is sometimes when you just release a massive report, people extrapolate little tiny pieces, make their own conclusions, then they circulate the information out. It's not always the best way to communicate that information. So we are going to look at seeing how we can do an executive summary to share with people that are interested, and we can make that a public document.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
That would be great. I'm Jody Mason from 64 Nelson. I don't know if any of you remember, but I submitted a virtual question. I know you get a lot of them, but in November, about Transport Canada's new level crossing regulations. I had just heard that they were being implemented as of January 1st, 2025, and I asked about it, and I think the answer was that you weren't yet sure. So I contacted Transport Canada, and they indicated that the new regulations don't introduce new measures for our crossing, which is perhaps you already know. I mean, obviously you do, because nothing needs to be done. But they said in their answer to me, when they did their last inspection in November of 2023, they issued a non-compliance letter to both the railway and the City of Montréal-Ouest, and that letter was sent in November of 2023. And then further, they told me that the City of Montréal-Ouest responded with a corrective measures plan in December of 2023. And I'm just wondering, because I can't see that corrective measures plan without submitting an access to information request, which I've done. But while I'm waiting, do you recall what that letter contained? Are you willing to share that with us?
By and large, Judy, it's a question that's, well, one of the things that caused us to redo that traffic study
Yeah,
that we did in November to make sure, so
Right,
let's
same
get
month.
up-to-date studies,
yeah,
to make sure that our next steps are in line with what we need to do, best practices.
yeah,
So, and that's part of the things that came out, calming, changing the left turns and things like that. Those were part of the things that were raised from that study. Some of it was also some of it was in the responsibility of EXO. EXO, I think if I remember correctly, they had to change some of the pavement between the barriers, things along
Okay.
those lines like that.
right. So, but that, if you submit a corrective measures plan to Transport Canada, does that not oblige the city to do those things?
And that's why
Yeah.
that's why we've
Okay.
started doing all these things already, and that's why
Okay.
we applied for grants and all of that.
So the stopping the southbound turn on, off of Sherbrooke, that's part of the
Part of it.
corrective measures plan. All the other things you mentioned are part of the corrective measures plan? So we're obligated to do those things, or we're not? Yes, or no?
That's a good question. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Okay,
Like I said, I don't know that we had to commit to certain things. I think that we had to commit to studying it.
okay,
But like I said, it just happened that there was that accident on Westminster, and it kind of went hand in hand,
right,
so that we wanted to go forward with some of these safety measures.
okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Can I just add
Yeah,
something?
please.
Yeah, so I think the corrective measures, I think the nomenclature is also the traffic recommendations are kind of one and the same. So the recommendations that are coming from the expert traffic study are the measures that we're going to put into place. The ones that I just listed to Joanna
okay,
are
yeah.
what came out of that traffic study that have to be evaluated. They have to have costs associated with them. And that's why I said we're probably going to do them in a phased approach.
Okay. Maybe just, if I could add to that, then, so what was the non-compliance? What were we not compliant with, the city of Montreal-West? Is that,
I have to be honest, I don't
Yeah,
remember that part,
okay.
because that was over a year ago.
okay,
But like I said, I just remember there were certain things, I think they were talking about sometimes too much signage, sometimes it wasn't clear,
okay,
things along those lines like that. So, but like I said, our biggest goal at that point was, we said, let's do the traffic study again, let's get the up-to-date, so that what we do is conforming and is what we need to get done.
right, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, that's right, and that's what I was saying before, that there were some elements that needed to be undertaken by EXO and by CP.
Right, they were also issued a non-compliance letter, yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Merci.
Good evening, everyone. Gord Farrell from 44 Curzon. Last year, I sent an email to the Urban Planning Department regarding an internet home swapping platform being used by a number of households in the Montreal-West called Home Exchange. The Home Exchange platform is fundamentally identical to other short-term rental platforms like Airbnb. Both platforms involve temporary accommodation arrangements where individuals offer their residences for others to occupy for short periods. One residence in Montreal-West has had 28 different occupancies over the last 2 years. I received an email back saying that this program is not considered a short-term rental. Well, whether the exchange is for a fee or via barter, they are still short-term stays. And they should be subject to the same zoning and municipal regulations that apply to other short-term rentals services like Airbnb. Now, many municipalities have introduced bylaws to govern short-term rentals and similar platforms, including Montreal-West. In fact, in March 21st, 2021, Colleen Feeney wrote an article in The Informer, and it basically said, in accordance with our zoning bylaw, Article 219, Paragraph 6, lodging establishments, hostels, hotels, motels, lodges, etc., and rentals through Airbnb and similar platforms are not permitted in any zone in the town. These are businesses that provide temporary or transient lodging to the public. They are not permitted in any type of residence, single-family dwelling, duplex, apartment, or condo. These short-term rentals are banned because they are not keeping with the nature of the community of our town. Now, my question is, respectfully, I ask this council to review this situation and reconsider the response that I received in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Farrell. Councillor Torres, can you want to, something you want to add to that, please?
Yes, I also wrote an article about it last year after I did a little bit of research. And in Quebec, short-term rentals are not allowed under the code, Quebec Civil Code. That means rentals less than 31 days. But by rentals, I mean is a business where you receive money for renting. So lodges, hotels, any platform, whether it's TripAdvisor, bookings. If they're not, Montreal-West residents cannot operate any of these businesses and advertise on any of these platforms. If they do it illegally. And I was talking to someone from the Ministry of Tourism, and says, Revenue Quebec and Revenue Canada would be very happy to find out about those people because they're skipping taxes if not being illegal. So they're not. And the way it works is if anybody wants to advertise these type of services in Quebec, anywhere in Quebec, you have to apply through the Ministry of Tourism, and they would contact the municipality because some municipalities do accept renting short-term. Montreal-West do not. We have never got any requests whatsoever for this type of business. Now, however, the services you're talking about with home away or work away, or they're exchange programs, and
Are
it has been.
Are they not short-term stays, weekends, people coming in and out
Mr. Farrell,
every
please.
weekend?
Yes,
Let
but
her
it's
finish,
not a
please.
business. And people in Montreal-West, I do know a lot of family who have been using it very successfully for many years, so they can take holidays and go away with their children. The way it works is I publish on these websites, and I exchange my house for a house in England, let's say, for a week. And then somebody else from somewhere else in the world comes to my house and uses. That's the way it works. It has been very successful, and we would not like to, we discussed this last year when it came up, and we would not like to stop that services because, as I said, many residents in Montreal-West have benefited from these services successfully for many, many years. Now, you talk about this property who had 28. If you have the address, please contact Ministry of Tourism and tell them that they're operating this type of business. They like to hear directly from whoever has to make a complaint to them, not from the municipality. That's what they told me. If they're doing it, it's something illegal.
Now, if I could add something, Mr. Farrell, my opinion, we haven't discussed this in council. If somebody's doing it 28, that's not exchanging 3 weeks because I'm going to France and they're going to come stay in my house for 3 weeks. If somebody's doing it 28 times in the year, that's flouting the letter of the law.
That's a Holiday Inn.
Yeah, that's something, and
Yeah.
that's something I'd like to see tightened up, if we can find a way to tighten that up.
Yeah.
That's something, that's my opinion, we haven't discussed it on
Yeah.
council that way. Okay?
Do you
So
have
that
an
is something to
address?
look at.
Or what, can you write to me and give me the address?
You can just go on the website, homeexchange.com.
Yeah, well, there are many houses, and many of those houses, I do know who the owners are, and they use it very responsibly, so I don't know which one you're talking about, because it doesn't have to do with that program, it has to do with that particular property owner who's abusing the system. So if we have one that is doing that, we would like to know.
I'll send you the email.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Karen Donnelly, 195 Wolseley. I'm asking a follow-up question on a question that I asked in the June 2024 meeting, that I was told things would happen, but nothing has happened in the last 7 months. So I'm here as a reminder. So a little bit of my explanation is, I'm asking about wood-burning fireplaces and wood stoves. And on December 26th this year, there was a smog warning in the city of Montreal. And when you get a smog warning, which is an official warning from Environment and Climate Change Canada, I think, basically it says, smog affects asthmatic children and people with respiratory ailments or heart disease. In Quebec, wood heating is the main source of fine particles that contribute to smog during winter. Most people might not believe this, but I guess it's our job to educate them. More than industrial activities and transportation. So it's well accepted that fireplaces and wood stoves in residential homes are a major source of contribution for smog. And they're also unnecessary. You know, whereas, okay, you need to go places or you need to have an industry, you don't need to sit and look at your fireplace burn like that. And so basically it continues on, the environment thing says, please consult your municipality's website to find out if there are any rules governing wood burning activities in your community. So I did that. And I found of the 16 municipalities on the island of Montreal, 14 of them had regulations of varying strengths. Some of them, many of them, Westmount, Montreal-West, Dorval, completely banned any of the non-compliant ones. If you get fitted, if you fit your fireplace to a really, really slow thing, but the regular fireplaces that most of us own, they're banned in Westmount. I won't go through the whole list. Westmount, I can give this to you afterwards. They're banned in many, many many places. In other places where they're not banned, they're banned in new construction. In other cities where they're not banned, they have information on their website saying they cannot be used. They can be used maximum of once in a 48-hour period and for a maximum of 6 hours. So there are regulations trying to curb the use and trying to curb smog that's generated by these appliances. Other websites have all sorts of great information trying to educate people, because maybe a lot of people don't know. Anyway, so I'm happy to give this to you. And I guess my question is, when will we do something, and what will we do? Why has it taken so long when we seem to be an environmentally conscious community? We have all sorts of stuff on our website about recycling and trees and native plants and everything, but there's like this huge blind spot about the fireplaces and wood stoves and how they generate smog. So when will we do something, and what will we do?
Councillor Yulin?
Please.
So we read your question that you sent in online, Karen. Thank you for that. And Benny said, "Oh, she's a plant." She thought you were my. He thought you were my plant.
No, we had no.
And I'm glad that you.
Just a coincidence.
Yeah,
Just a coincidence.
I'm glad that it was a coincidence, because you're absolutely right about everything you say, and it's taken us a long time to get here. But we have we confirmed as a council that we are going to go ahead. I've written an article that's going to be coming out probably in a couple of days in the Informer. We're looking at the Westmount, at mirroring the Westmount regulations, and so that's very strict. And your ordinary fireplace would not be able to be used unless you're in a power outage of over 3 hours, which is the same with all the municipalities that have regulated it. Certain things would come into effect right away, like not being able to burn wood on in any kind of stove, regulation or not, during smog warnings, because of course that shouldn't be happening ever. Not using it as your primary heating source, again, not something you should be doing. The restrictions with regard to when you would need to have conforming units. So let's say you wanted to put an insert in your fireplace. You could do that if it has to meet EPA regulations. You could get a wood stove, but it has to meet EPA regulations. So all of the kinds of things that I'm using Westmount as an example, because you've done your research and you know that they have very strict regulations. The most strict of those, that is to say, insisting that people get inserts if they want to burn wood, or conforming wood stoves, would come into place a little bit later. So we were looking at we haven't fixed on a date, but we were looking at some time in perhaps the fall of 26 to give people some time. If they want to retrofit their existing units, they could have some time to do that. But I really appreciate your question, and it is actually on the road to happening. So.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that things are moving forward. May I respectfully suggest that this maybe could be the last heating season that it happens, and people want to retrofit, they just don't use them for one season. And, or else, like, I think it's Beaconsfield, but I have it written here, one municipality has an amazingly good education, because I think people need to learn. They kind of
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
"Oh,
Well,
it's my little fireplace, it's not doing any
I
problem."
think that
People need
part
to
of
learn that.
writing this article in
Yeah.
the Informer was letting people know why
Good.
we're looking at doing it, because people have no idea, like the stats you read out about wood fires being the number one reason for smog. I mean, who would even think that, you know, we look at who's burning wood, but enough people are burning wood that it actually makes a huge impact and tremendous health effects as well. So I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you weren't a plant. You were just a regular person coming here with a regular question.
Environmentally conscious
Yeah,
me.
that's
There you go. Okay.
So here it is, just in case you want to.
All right, thanks.
And I'm glad to hear things will be.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Ms. Donnelly. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Cynthia Nichols, 25 Westminster South. Like Mr. Robinson, I came here with a slew of questions, but I have two, now three, after your opening statement. So I'm just going to put it into a statement, and that is the Bank of Montreal, that guichet. I've been going there for the past couple of months in the cold, waiting for the 162 bus on occasion, and it is absolutely filthy to the point where, I mean, this week, you couldn't even stand the smell. People were leaving the door open. There was little bags of rat poison and food containers and everything else. So that's one. But the other one, now this is a question. Since October, the street in front of my house has not been cleaned. I left one specific piece of plastic from that building, from the windows, you know, the plastic that they take off of the window panels. I left it there on purpose. Because as everyone knows, I go out and I clean the streets in front of the house all the time. But since October, this piece of plastic has been ground into the leaves, it's been ground into the ice, the snow. It's almost as if they make a little turn away from it
We
to
don't clean
leave
the
it
streets.
right there at the walkway.
We don't clean the streets in the winter. The street sweeper does
You
not, no, the street sweeper
October is
cannot,
not winter.
cannot operate in the winter.
November, it's not winter. We only receive
Well,
some snow
we-
late in
the
December.
machine does not operate now, which is why.
I
streets
realize
haven't been
that.
cleaned.
But we also have snow plows. And do you think that they might be willing to pick that up, considering that they really don't pick the garbage up on occasion, as you stated before? Is that a possibility? That's my question.
The snow plows will operate when there's snow.
So do you think that one of the workers that makes $80,000 a year could come by and pick up this one piece of plastic?
That you put there on purpose.
I did not. It blew from this window.
I'm sorry, I thought you put it there on purpose.
No. Would I?
Okay.
Elizabeth. I'm picking garbage up around the town. I'm not placing garbage in the town. Now, the second question has to deal with U-Haul.
Excuse me, what?
With the U-Haul
Yes,
sale. So the sale has gone through.
Yes.
And, well, I was just wondering about the zoning changes and everything else it brought to mind. I mean, why didn't we, and this is just a question now, we're complaining about not having enough space for residents. Why didn't we turn that into residential zoning?
Because that was something that's already been used by U-Haul. There was a little portion on the front of their lot that didn't belong to them, it belonged to the town. So they rented it from us. Now we've sold that to them. So they're gonna take their existing building and expand that.
And the zoning for that piece of property was changed.
Not what it can be used for, just some limitations.
I'm just going over some of the other town meetings, and I remember specifically that there was a change in the zoning for that.
Not on what can be used there. Just on, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's on the height of the building that can go there. Yeah, that's it. So it's the number of floors and the coefficient, the occupancy coefficient.
Okay, so once again, that was the zoning because it was residential, was
No,
it?
it wasn't residential. It
What
was
was
always
it?
commercial, industrial
Okay.
commercial, and it still is. The only thing that we've changed is the maximum number of stories that can go there.
I see.
Okay.
And I didn't have anything to do, not like the church, right? This was not, because I am a client of U-Haul, and it seems that since this deal has now gone through, I am now having complications with them,
I
just
have
as I did
no
with the
idea.
church and the zoning change at the
No
chain
idea what's going on
church.
between you and U-Haul? That's got nothing to do
Well,
with us.
you know, those are deals that you made,
Yeah.
so I'm just wondering, you
All
and
right,
I
thank
were
you
not
very
the
much.
friendliest of
We're
people.
going to move on to the questions that were submitted online. First question comes from Daniel Bulleries, 204 Wolseley North. Dear Council, like many residents, I was happy last year that Council passed the bylaw limiting the amount of garbage that residents and businesses can put out. The bylaw was not just good for the environment, but if I understand correctly, also aimed to reduce collection costs for the town. Unfortunately, one business that has a lot of compostable matter each week has not changed their behavior. This business continues to put out boxes and boxes of garbage each week. In their garbage are lots of old fruits and vegetables. Can the town please start enforcing the bylaw? Councillor Small-Penifat,
Thank you for your question, Mr. Bouleris. I appreciate it. So public security is aware. So we're doing some sensitization with some of the merchants on Westminster if they're not respecting the bylaw. And if that means that they need more composting bins, the town is happy to give them 10 compost bins if that's what they require, but they do have to absolutely adhere to the bylaw with regards to garbage, compost, it's its own, and recycling. So if people need, they can fill their boots on the recycling, they could fill their boots on the compost, but we know what the restriction is for garbage. So if they have items that need to be composted or recycled, we'll absolutely provide the necessary bins to them, and it's part of the sensitization campaign that we're doing. So public security is aware, and they will be having a conversation.
thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Councillor
question.
Small-Pennefather, thank you for your question, Mr. Bulleris. Sean Coleman, 68 Wolseley North. A quick comment to say thank you to the team for maintaining all the outdoor rinks in Montreal-West. I've been impressed with the quality of the ice. It was a treat to take my daughter skating for the first time in our neighborhood. Councillor Feeney, do you want to add
Yeah,
something to that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Coleman, for your comment. Very appreciated. I think we can say that that's also thanks to Mother Nature with our cooler weather and the public works staff, and I will definitely pass along your compliments to them. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much. Next question comes from Dominica Pulcini, 24 Ronald. Good morning. The stairs from Courtney to Ronald are in terrible condition, and it is now 2 years. This work should be a priority for Montreal-West. And two, after years and many requests, there's still no proper sign indicating the beginning of the bicycle path on Brock at the corner of Ronald. Even in the winter, cars mistakenly take this path. Why is the city so adamant about not indicating the bicycle path properly, as previously mentioned, with a pictogram of the bicycle? Thank you. Councillor Yulin, please.
Thank you, Dominica, for your question. So the stairs from Courtney to Ronald are in terrible shape. You're right about that. They were made even more seriously damaged by a storm we had recently. And so they're not usable, and they haven't been for some time. We're conducting some studies to assess what work needs to be done. It's particularly complicated there because we have some water and sewer infrastructure, including an aqueduct, underneath the stairs. And so we're going to have to pay particularly close attention to how that can be dealt with. As you might know, Courtney was on our list of streets to be redone, and so work on this staircase would almost certainly happen at the same time, because we would be redoing the sewer and water system and the aqueduct at that time. And so we're going to have to wait for those studies in order to determine what to do with the staircase, but for now, you're quite right, it's not usable. You asked a question about marking the signage for the bike path on Brock South. You're absolutely right. I think we do need signage there, and so we're looking into how we can get that done. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you for your question. Stan Carney on Wolseley Avenue North would like to know why we can no longer access online videos of previous council meetings in the archive section. Is there a new format to view meetings in 2024 or 23? Garbage pickup now around 5 p.m. How many trucks allotted in the new contract? I would presume only one truck to do the whole town. Otherwise, pickup would be much sooner. Can you explain and justify why so late? And can you tell them not to block driveways with the empty bins? Councillor Yulin, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Carney, for your question. So we looked into the archives online to see what the problem might be, and it looks as if there is an issue not looking at these archives on your computer, but on mobile devices. So if you were trying to look on your phone, for instance, you wouldn't be able to see some of those meetings. We're definitely going to look into this issue, and it should be repaired tomorrow. So thank you again for bringing that to our attention. There is only one garbage truck that comes around and serves the whole town, so that is why undoubtedly your area is not getting done till 5 p.m., so that's the rationale for that. With respect to some problems you're having with bins blocking driveways and such, and other issues, we know we have issues with our contractors, and as I mentioned in my report some minutes ago, we're dealing with them, and we hope to be making some headway on that. But thank you again for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Councillor Yulin. Thank you for your question. Allison Cunningham at 230 Percival. Hello, the arena lights inside the arena on the second floor are left on all night, creating quite a lot of noise, of light pollution. I was wondering whether these lights may be turned off in the future when construction is finished and when they're not in use. Thank you very much. Allison, Councillor Feeney, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question, Allison. Yes, we know that in the past when we've asked the construction company about lights that are left on, in particular that was the spotlight, it was for safety reasons and to help ensure against trespassing and theft. That may not be the case for the second floor lights, so we're going to bring that up at our next contractors meeting and see what they have to say about that. So hopefully that will be taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Thank you for your question. Judy Kennedy, 151 Strathern North. Is it possible to have the recycling contractors and garbage contractors place the bins back on a person's property rather than on the sidewalks? This is especially important during snow removal. Sometimes I can't make it outside in order to remove the bins in a timely manner. Councillor Yulin, please.
Sure. Thank you, Judy, for your question. Yes, you're quite right. They should not be put back on the sidewalk, and it does impede our snow clearing operations when we have them. So we will make a special note to let them know if that's happening. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Councillor Yulin. Thank you for your question. Next question comes from Brian Benedetti, 22 Brock South. What is the snow removal policy? Does it explain the lack of snow removal from Brock South? Councillor Yulin, please.
So thank you for your question, Brian. The snow removal policy is at 2.5 centimeters, that's about an inch, that we go out and start plowing the snow. At 20 centimeters, we do a snow removal. So that's our policy. That, we do have some discretion in that. Obviously, if we're going to have some conditions later in the week, let's say we're going to have freezing rain in a couple days, we want to get that snow out of there so it doesn't block up and, freeze into a brick of ice, making it impossible to remove later. So we have some wiggle room there, but essentially that is our policy for snow plowing and removal. The only thing that I can think of that might add more to the snow in the road than actually falling from the sky is there are a number of people who have snow contractors who take the snow out of individual driveways and put it on the road, and occasionally that does cause more issues with having snow on the road. I don't know if that's happening on Brock South or not, but that is our policy for when we do snow removal, and it's the same for the entire town.
Thank you, Councillor Yulin. Thank you for your question. Jacqueline Roy, 341 Westminster North. Is hockey allowed on the ice outside RWA, Royal West Academy? I was almost hit by a puck as I walked on Westminster. It just missed my head by inches, and then a car traveling past was just missed. If yes, why no board surrounding the ice? Councillor Feeney, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your question, Ms. Rock. I'm assuming that you mean the ice that is in Davies Park, not actually in front of Royal West, because that's the one on Westminster. And hockey is not allowed on our ice rinks that do not have boards. You're absolutely right. It's a danger. A stray puck can come and hit a person, an animal, a car, etc. So now that you've brought this up, I know at one point we had posted some signs about that, but we will make sure that signs are posted again and that the hockey is only permitted on the on the skating rinks with the boards. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Thank you for your question. Peter Cooney, 101 Brock South. An opportunity to thank Lauren Pennefather for stopping the use of your lane beside my house for trucks to unload and load for a couple of days for a movie set in a home next to me. She spent a few days not allowing this to happen. They finally had to use the street in front of their house. Also, I called a few days ago to have curb ice removed from in front of my house to allow my handicapped wife entry into her car. The snow removal came the next morning. No complaint, but appreciation. Councillor Small-Pennefather?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Definitely appreciate you taking the time, Mr. Cooney, to give your appreciation. I'll certainly share that with the team. So just let people know when we do assess, when we do get permits for people, we know our town is pretty popular to film movies because of the charm of the town. And when we do get requests, there's a petition, then there's a request that's sent through our town, oh my God, to our town clerk, thank you, to the town clerk. And of course, there's an assessment also made with public security and others in urban planning to make sure that we get it right. Sometimes, you know, it's good when we don't always get it right, or we're going through an assessment and we get the input from our residents and there was a particular circumstance, and we're happy that we were able to address it and created a good situation for everybody that was involved. So very much appreciate that, and I'll share that with the team. Thank you, Mr. Cooney.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lawrence Small-Pennefather, and thank you for your question. We had one other question that was asked in the room, so I won't repeat that. And then there was one final question from Mr. Mullally. Mr. Mullally, you've asked this question or variations on this question about 4 times already, and they were all answered. So we're not going to answer it again this evening. That's it. We're going to move back to the agenda now. We're at now the contracts in the town clerk's office. Agreement for a no building servitude on part of lot 6632666.
Yes, so whereas on October 30th, 2020, the Eastern Development LP purchased the former public library and its land from the town of Montreal-West and undertook the construction of a mixed-use building in its place in accordance with the provisions of the deed of sale. Whereas one of the conditions of the deed of sale is that the purchaser must agree to sign a no building servitude to secure the presence of a pre-existing underground water infrastructure that had to be relocated but remain on this land. Whereas a notarized agreement has been drafted to this effect. Therefore, I move that the council accept the terms and conditions of a no building servitude in perpetuity on part of lot 6632666, and that the mayor and the director general be authorized to sign such an agreement with the Eastern Development LP.
Thank you very much, Councillor Yulin. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Administration and Finances, approval of disbursements December 14 to January 24.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move that the list of accounts payable from December 14th to January 24th, 2024, totaling $7,580,737.90, and payroll in the amount of $339,960.80 for the 2024 period PP51 to 25 PP4 to be approved and paid.
Thank you very much, Councillor Feeney. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Délégation des pouvoirs pour le mois de décembre 2024 et janvier 2025.
Je propose que soient approuvés les rapports de la directrice générale concernant l'exercice des pouvoirs délégués au vertu du règlement numéro 12005/002 pour le mois de décembre 2024 et janvier 2025.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci, la conseillère Small-Pennefather. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Parfait, merci. Art, etc.
I move that 1, the council agree to rent the Assembly Hall on the occasion of the Arts and Craft Fair that will take place during the 3 days in November 2025 for a bulk discount amount of $3,590.70, taxes included, plus a fee of $114.98, taxes included, for a signed space and reimbursable deposit of $500 to secure the reservation in consideration of a total of 22 hours and a half of rental for the event, setup, and cleanup, and to keep the other terms and conditions of the previous agreement in effect. 2, that the deposit and an advance payment of $500 on the rental amount be payable upon signing the agreement, followed by a payment of $1,295.35 no later than May 1st, 2025, and the balance of $1,795.35 plus the fee for assigned space to be paid no later than August 1st, 2025.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small Pennefather, can I have a seconder?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much. Before we call for the vote, I just want to point out that Councillor Yulin abstained from any of our deliberations about this because she has an interest in the matter. So all in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Urban Department, Site Planning Projects and Architectural Integration Program.
I move to acknowledge receipt of the minutes of a meeting held by the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC, on January 22nd, 2025. To approve as presented under the SBIP the following plans submitted to this meeting in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 45 Westminster South, addition of screens surrounding the mechanical equipment on the roof. To defer the examination of the following plans to the next meeting of this council in accordance with the recommendations of the PAC as outlined in the minutes. 2628 Westminster North, transformation and extension of the existing building to add more residential units.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Minor exemption request 2628 Westminster North. If I could ask, before you read the motion, Councillor Torres, just a quick summary of the
Yes, absolutely.
the issue,
Yeah.
please.
Gladly. The owners of the building 2628 Westminster North, they have requested 2 minor exceptions. One is to allow the building setback on the back going from 10 feet to 8. That way it's been reduced by 2 feet. But the second request, usually when we somebody requests a minor exemption, we either accept or refuse it. This time is an exception because we did a conditional, open the approval of the final concept. What they applied for, we're supposed to have certain materials no more than 15% all over the facade of the building or on the side. This time they had requested to increase it to 22.2%. PAC reviewed the files and was in agreement that it works well with the building. However, we want to wait till the final project is presented and approved. So that's what is its condition. I would like to add that these issues were advertised in the newspaper, and we didn't receive any comments after that. So we can proceed.
So, okay, if you want to move them,
Sure.
okay, if I could have somebody move the motion, please, sorry.
I move that the plans and requests submitted on December 11, 2024 meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee to be approved in accordance with bylaws 2020-002 and G-18-0005 for the following minor exemptions from the Schedule of Uses and Standards in effect under Section 3.2.2 and Paragraph 4 of the first indent of Section 3.3.2 of the zoning bylaw regarding the immovable located at 26-28 Westminster North in Zone MB-1 to allow a new building with a rear setback of 8 feet instead of the minimum 10 feet required in that zone, the consequence being to reduce the requirement by 2 feet. Conditional upon approval of final concept, allow in a new building the use of lighter cladding materials, aluminum, on the exterior surface beyond the proportion of 15% up to 22.2%, therefore an increase of 7.2%.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small Pennefather. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Public Works, awarding of contracts for the supply of an electric ice resurfacing machine.
Yes, whereas the town of Montreal-West issued a public call for tender for the purpose of purchasing an electric ice resurfacing machine, whereas 2 suppliers ordered the tender document and each submitted a bid, therefore I move that we award the purchase contract of a Zamboni 450 Li year 2025 to Robert Boileau Incorporated, being the lowest conforming bidder, as per the tender dated October 31st, 2024, for a total price of $133,140 plus taxes. And secondly, to charge this expense to the working fund budget code 55-911-00-000. And third, to authorize the recreation coordinator of the town to sign any documents required to implement this resolution, including delivery and registration.
Thank you very much. Councillor Yulin, can I have a seconder?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Feeney. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Adjudication d'un contrat concernant le remplacement de l'entrée électrique à l'hôtel de ville.
Oui, Monsieur le maire. Attendu que la Ville de Montréal-Ouest a procédé à un appel d'offres public afin d'octroyer un contrat pour des travaux de remplacement de l'entrée électrique à l'hôtel de ville, attendu que 7 documents d'appel d'offres ont été commandés, attendu que 4 soumissions ont été reçues et évaluées, attendu que la firme d'ingénierie Pajot Morel ayant analysé les soumissions a évalué leur conformité et recommande d'accorder le contrat au plus bas soumissionnaire conforme. En conséquence, je propose, premièrement, que le contrat pour le remplacement de l'entrée électrique à l'hôtel de ville soit adjugé à Corrado Entrepreneur Général 9480-0265 Québec Incorporé, étant le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, suivant la soumission datée du 13 décembre 2024 au prix de 311 500 $, taxes non incluses. Deuxièmement, que cette dépense soit imputée au surplus non alloué, poste budgétaire code 55-991-00-000. Et troisièmement, que le maire et le greffier soient autorisés à signer tout document contractuel requis pour les fins de la présente résolution selon le cas.
Merci. La conseillère Feeney, je peux voir l'appui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, je l'appuie.
Merci, la conseillère Torres. Tout en faveur, s'il vous plaît.
Oui.
Thank you. Awarding contracts, replacement of the emergency stairs at Town Hall.
Whereas the Town of Montreal-West issue a public call for tenders for the purpose of awarding a contract for the replacement of exterior emergency stairs at the Town Hall. Whereas 10 tender documents were ordered by contractors, whereas 2 bids were received and evaluated, whereas the firm Fabric Architecture analyzed the tenders, evaluated their conformity, and recommended that the contract be awarded to the lowest conforming bidder. Therefore, I move that the contract for the replacement work of the exterior emergency stairs at the Town Hall be awarded to the lowest conforming bidder, Abrita Construction, Inc., as per its tender dated December 19th, 2024, based on the price of $362,645 before the contingency reserve and not including taxes. That this expense be charged to the working fund, budget code 55-911-00-000. And last, that the mayor and the town clerk be authorized to sign any contracts and other documents required to implement its resolution, as the case may be.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torres. Can I have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Small-Pennefather. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Human Resources 2025 conferences for the managers.
I move that the managers be authorized to attend the following professional development activities subject to approval by their supervisor and confirmation of budget availability. Town Clerk, Coopération des officiers municipaux agréés de Québec, Laval-Bay, May 21st to May 23rd. Directeur général, Association des directeurs généraux municipaux de Québec, Laval-Bay, June 4th to June 6th. Association canadienne des administrateurs municipaux, Mont-Tremblant, May 26th to May 28th. Communications Officer, Association des communicateurs municipaux de Québec, Victoriaville, May 28th to May 30th. Public Works Director, APWA National Public Works Conference, Chicago, August 17th to August 20th. Assistant Public Works Director, Conférence Info Excavation, Trois-Rivières, March 13th and March 14th. Public Works Foreman, Travaux Publics Québec, Conference Neige, Drummondville, April 29th.
Thank you very much. Councillor Small-Pennefather, can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Feeney, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I want to point out, these are conferences that they've attended every year, but because of some changes and some better practices now, we're making it part of a resolution so that everybody's aware of what's going on. Now we're going on to the second question period. So if there's anybody in the room that has any questions concerning items that were in the agenda, please go ahead and ask them.
I'm the only one in the room. Everyone else is gone, except for yourselves and the security.
Yes, ma'am.
Very, very strange. How many are we? 4,000, 5,000?
5,200.
Exactly. Where's everyone? You mentioned about the no building servitude on because of the rerouting of a water system right here, 2 doors down from me.
So there was a water pipe. Yeah, just I want to make it clear for you. There was a water pipe that was in the middle of the lot. And what we've had them to do, you can't put a building on top of a water pipe, so we had it moved to the edge of the lot, just a water pipe. So then what we've done now is just saying, okay, now it's at the edge of the lot, that's been there already for a year, 2 years already. Now we put a servitude saying you can't build above that.
Okay, but you realize that we still have the watershed from the St. Pierre running this way.
This is a water pipe. This has got nothing else. This is a water pipe. The water that's bringing over there. It's not like anything other than this water pipe that was in the middle of the lot. We had it moved to the edge of the lot.
Okay, so how does that work as far as the land still flooded?
It's got nothing to do with that.
Oh, really?
Okay.
With all of the water.
Any other questions?
Do you have any idea
Do you have any other questions?
why the land is being flooded? and
None
nothing-
whatsoever. Thank you. That's it for
Are you serious?
that's it for the public question period, and nothing else came online. So if I could have somebody move pour la levée de la séance, s'il vous plaît.
Je propose de lever la séance.
Je peux avoir l'appui, s'il vous plaît?
Je